Hello and welcome to the last day, if it will, to the Hyperion Solutions Conference. My name is Mitch Campbell, and here with me today is...
Yeah, it's Barry Mostert, and we've been around this sort of area for a long time. In fact, I joined Hyperion back with the acquisition. I came in through 2007, joining Hyperion, then came to Oracle through the acquisition. Mitch, of course, joined Hyperion in 1907.
Correct. Or maybe it was 1998, but one of those days. And then obviously came to Oracle in 2007 as well. But that's not why we're here. So what we wanted to do is give an opportunity for you guys to see what we're calling a day in the life with analytics and EPM, because it's not just leveraging the reports that are within EPM. And I think the previous session showed that as well. It was a perfect example of someone who lets planning do planning and then lets the reporting tools do reporting. That's kind of what we're talking about here, because there's always additional data sources, additional users, and things like that. So a day in the life to us means a couple different things. So Barry, why don't you tell us what we got here?
Yeah, so we're going to look at some options. And, of course, EPM is really the compass that guides the business. But what we're going to do is look at how analytics becomes your map that shows you the best routes to get to that point. And in this day in the life, we have some technologies that help you unravel that map. And the first one we're looking at today is the Live EPM Direct Connection, which of course is new and it's just come out in OAC from the 5.6 version, and it now connects to the EPM cloud. That allows you to get a direct connection, so you get the live EPM data coming straight into your analytics, so you can then blend and expand on that. The second thing we're going to look at is the more traditional way that people have been doing this is with the export and then import. But what we're going to do that's different is we're going to export that data, and it come from any of the EPM systems, whether that's on premises or in the cloud in any version, and then loading that through OAC data flows. So you have a programmatic way, so you don't fall into the Excel problems, right, but we have a programmatic way of then loading that into the ADW. But the ADW is cool because you get to do that as a business user. So if you can drive Excel, this process, even with the ADW, is going to be for you. And then finally, we'll look at another option where we can then bring those data sources together from EPM and from the ADW and then blend it so you get that complete business view. There's a fourth option here too. We won't be showing that today because that's been around for a while, and I bet some of you have been using it, and that's the RPD connection that uses the ADM driver. That also is a programmatic solution, but it requires IT to actually set up the RPD, the semantic layer, before business users get in to use it. So let's go on to it, Mitch. So here's the kind of architecture diagram of the four things we just talked about. So the first one, as I described, is that direct connector, and you can see it connecting from the Hyperion modules directly through to Oracle Analytics Cloud. So it's just like any other data source, bringing data directly in. And you can do that by itself and then blend it on yourself. The second option is that extract and import scenario where we do the exports into Excel files or CSV files or whatever. But we use these OAC data flows to then pick those up and programmatically load. And with the data flows, you can incrementally load or replace files, so you can have that constantly going on. So you can even schedule those processes. And those files can be loaded straight into OAC, or you can go via the ADW. So it is optional. The third option there is what we're going to show as well, is when you do have those things set up, this is where the value comes. When you start to blend the data, because you really, if you're trying to investigate something you found a variance in your sales, in your plan within the EPM cloud, you want to be able to explain that. So how are you going to address that sales deficit with your marketing? Are you going to go and alter your logistics, find new products that you have more inventory of, and create a sales campaign to address that deficit in sales? All of that stuff's going to come from different systems like inventory, marketing. And that's where the third option comes in to really bring those things together. The fourth one as well, you can see it sitting in the middle of the diagram here. And that's because you have to set up that RPD connection. And again, you can actually use the data flows to connect to that RPD and bring that data through. And you don't need to make a choice of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. You can do all of these things together depending on what systems you have. And some customers may have multiple EPM systems, or they're transitioning from the on-premises planning and budgeting to the newer EPM cloud. And this way you can bring data from both of those together to get a complete view. So let's move on, Mitch. Let's have a look at these things. Here's the first one. Let's look at this live EPM connector. As I said, it's going to connect OAC directly to the EPM cloud.
All right, so that's me. I'm going to jump in and actually show this to you because we've got some interesting things to look at directly in a browser. So let me get a little more screen real estate for us here. Starting just on the Oracle Analytics home screen. So a lot of what we wanted to do was kind of show you live opportunities here to see Oracle Analytics at work. And it starts with just kind of a basic overview on the home screen. There's some nice thumbnails of work that's been done. You can see if you've got something that's a favorite, you can go right into it. You see access to your data sets and data flows, etc. The first thing I wanted to show you, however, is simply this upper right-hand corner. If you hit the Create button and go in and look at the connection options, right off the bat, you're going to see what we're talking about. So what's been added into Oracle Analytics Cloud has been all of the Oracle applications that are on the SaaS side, as well as Essbase. This is 19C, currently on OCI. And then here's the Oracle EPM Cloud. So there's a direct connector directly in this interface. You simply come in, provide it a connection name, the appropriate URL string for your EPM Cloud instance, a username and password, and you're good to go. So once you've got that set up, you've established a connection with that, you can go directly into, in this case, we've kind of built a sample book, and I'm going to jump directly to the PBCS tab because it is the live query. And you can see that right off the bat, I can give a little bit better use of the screen real estate and just show you a few things, because what we're looking at directly in the instance is not only some really interesting visualizations, but there's pattern brushing across the visuals. We're showing, you know, kind of a scatter bar, if you will, alongside a tile with some details and a bar chart, as well as, you know, just a tag cloud to see what's the largest forecast. Now, what's interesting is when you're working with the direct connection to EPM, you have to have your filters set appropriately. So you'll notice across the top, I've got all of the filters set. You can see I can go in and make changes to the filter selections. I can look and see everything that's there directly with that live connection. Also, as you scroll across, you can see all of the selections that have already been made. If I reopen the two left-hand side panels, you'll notice I've got my connection on the left, directly to that EPM instance. So this is the planning or PBCS application that's available there. You can see all the folders and the capabilities directly coming out of that. So as I open the hierarchies, I open these folders, you can see that it's querying directly from the EPM Cloud to get that information. And then simply as you kind of highlight each one of these visuals, you can see exactly what's already been selected for the shelf. So the values, the category, what's on the x-axis, the color, for instance. So just an example of the first type of information that you might want to leverage directly. So again, our first option, I'll give a little bit of screen real estate again, is to have a book of reports that includes a nicely filtered, so you get just the relevant information for your users, some visuals. So you can call it a canvas, you could call it a project, you could call it a dashboard, but that's our first set. So specifically, we wanted to show you this as our starting point. So Barry, why don't we jump back and talk about option 2?
Right, so option 2, if you remember, and that's really where we start to bring these things together. So now we're going to connect to both the EPM data, but also bring in some additional data. So like you might have, you know, other data sources across the enterprise, which has relevant information. And, you know, the best decisions, you need to consider all relevant information, not just the information you have time to consider. So really, we want to get out of that concept of spending all your time trying to bring data together, spending it in Excel, doing VLOOKUPs to join things, but instead having it all here centralized. And, you know, when you get into VLOOKUPs and you have that monolithic Joe user Excel sheet, that's when you start to introduce that lack of trustworthiness. You have a difficult day and you introduce human error and you don't even notice it until that information flows up to the CFO. And you do that one time and then every report after that is going to be untrustworthy. So really, we want to keep you inside a connected and auditable system. But everything that you used to being able to do in Excel, you can do here. So we'll look at this next, and being able to import data from multiple sources added to the ADW. So you can actually start to have a centralized system rather than a massive document store of thousands of Excel sheets.
So let's talk about how you get there. I think you mentioned a data flow, so let's walk through that. So if I come into the data area on the home screen, you'll notice there's some tabs across the top, data sets, different connections that you have access to, whether it's the EPM cloud or to the autonomous data warehouse, and then an existing data flow. If you wanted to start a new one, you'd use that same button I used in the upper right, and you'd just say, create new data flow. But let's go into the one that Barry created, and I'll let him speak to specifically what we're looking at.
Okay, so here you can see on the very left, the three sources, which have actually all come from EPM Cloud, or from, as I said, with this particular scenario, you could be doing, because you're doing an export, it could be CSV files, can be from any of the planning versions and things out there, any of the EPM systems out there. So now you can join those things very quickly and easily. And these little joins you can see essentially become the replacement for your VLOOKUPs. And they become programmatic and shareable and collaborative. So, and because it's in the centralized system, you know, when Joe user leaves, the next person coming in understands how these things come together and can then take over. So you don't have a loss of logic within these different things. And then once we've joined those up, you have the ability to do enrichment and preparation. So here we've chosen to select a few columns, and what we've done is taken out some of the ID fields. You know, users don't want to be using ID fields from relational tables and things like that. And there's a whole bunch of other things down the left, and Mitch can kind of scroll down those things, and you can see there's the ability to add columns, transform columns. You want to be able to add computed items. You want to create aggregate values. You can do all that here. If you can go to Excel and you used to do a whole lot of logic and data enrichment there. Well, if you could do it there, you can start to do it here in this platform, and that's the goal. And there's some really cool things you couldn't do in Excel. I mean, there's some stuff in here that's got some time series forecasting, sentiment analysis, all built in. And one of the very cool things, Mitch, how's about that Essbase creator?
What do you know? There's a button here that instead of saving the data, you could create an Essbase cube. Specifically, what we're talking about, of course, is a live connection to 19C. So it's not writing back to the EPM cloud. But if you had that dual environment where you've got universal credits, you're also leveraging Essbase 19C running on OCI, you could just as easily create a cube from here. So creating a data flow, that's last step is to create a brand new cube is simple and fast. And I would wager to bet there's not much that can do it quicker than this.
So you mean I don't have to learn that voodoo black art of Essbase creation? It just does it for me?
It's not voodoo black art. It's fun. But anyway, let's talk about what we did. Instead of Essbase, we actually went in and on the save data step, we leveraged what?
And here's the ADW, and you can see you have a choice of the database connection, or you can save it as a data set within OAC. But here we want it to be a more shareable, performant environment. And here we can have, you know, as many users as you like and as much data as you want. You're never going to get confined with the limitations of number of rows in Excel and that kind of thing. You can literally load this thing up with as much as you want, and it's going to perform. And here's the choice to replace existing data, or you can add new. So you have the ability to do incremental loads. So once you create this, you test it, you get it right, you're going to be good to go. You're going to be able to load these things. And you can see there's no SQL on this form. There's no difficult coding. You as a user who can drive Excel can literally create and load an ADW data mart for this particular purpose.
Yep. Just by right-clicking, adding another. There's a lot of data preparation tools out there. We just wanted to make sure everyone understood that ours comes embedded. It's not sold separately. It's not a separate browser. It's absolutely part of the process. We look at this as just as important as having a drag and drop, dragging an Excel sheet in. If I need to blend and extend and do more, that's what data flows and data prep is here for. We leverage this to create, as you saw, this brand new autonomous data warehouse data set, and we called it, what did we call it? So the database is actually ADW legal, and what we've created is a brand new data set. So let's go take a look at that. If I go back to the home screen, you'll notice across the top, you'll see those thumbnails and then the different icons. So ADW legal is that direct connection to the autonomous warehouse. And then there's the legal services FE. So the fee earners, we're talking about data that's been brought in from a legal company. They're worried about hours billed and unbilled. They're worried about what they're spending money on. And what's nice is there's this little expansion for more detail, the hamburger. If you hover over that, you can see that it can go directly into a further level, which is if I want to go in and inspect this bit of information, the most important things pop up. So on the general tab of this legal services FE, you'll notice that when was created, how often it's been modified. Because we're the ones who are providing the content for others, we can actually go out here and certify that this data is accurate. We've looked at it to ensure that our end users know. So when they drop in, they'll see that this is a certified set. Where is it coming from? What's the connection directly to the Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse? And then you'll also notice that it can be a live query or it can be automatically cached. So if you're taking advantage of caching, if you're blending with other sources, if you're leveraging things like natural language, that's how you drive that choice. Back again, the data elements are directly from the select field, select columns. You can see exactly those pieces coming from EPM. And then what's really important to us is we want to have that augmented experience here. So we're indexing the data. So we're making sure that it can be used by the natural search, again, that's out of the box with Oracle Analytics Cloud, by names and values in our case. And you could say every time the data is refreshed, or you can say, you know what, do it every night at 2 a.m. or once a week, or however often you see it's appropriate to you. The last part here is access, and you can see the different, there's 2 user roles in our example instance, and then of course there's Barry and myself with full control. But this is what allows us to do what comes next. So we've got this set, we've got it indexed, we've gone through and certified the data. I can keep that if I want, but what's nice is embedded in part of this is you could either go into that nice book that I already created, or I can use natural language information, and I typed in hours. You'll notice very quickly that I immediately get some responses, and you can see down here at the bottom what you can visualize, whether it's build hours, hours worked, etc. If I choose hours worked, it's going to run a live query off of the Autonomous Data Warehouse and bring back a tile. So if the total number of hours worked for this firm is 55,200. Well, I want that monthly. So if I just start typing month, notice it tells me the data set again. That's our ADW instance, hours worked by month. I could keep going. If I wanted to look at the cost breakdown, the cost code is something that's important to me. Notice that it's filtered the data, and as I simply make these selections, it adds those new choices. If I wanted to look at billed versus unbilled, and I just typed in the word billed, you can see the billed hours, the budgeted fees, all of the different things that pop up as you simply ask for them are going to be brought back to this home screen to start your analysis. So if you're someone who's familiar with the data and you're already looking to go to that next level, it's a great way to start going. So that's natural language processing. It also lets you search if you needed just for existing projects, existing books that are in your catalog, etc. So if I just wanted to say, you know what, this is the one I like, let me right click and open it in data visualization. So I'm using this as my starting point, and I want to jump into a blank canvas that it populates with the visualization it built out of the box. So just by my natural language query, it started and it put this in place. If I wanted to duplicate that and add a second one, I'd say, let's duplicate this visualization. I could even do that a third time. Doesn't matter where I hover, just it's a right click, duplicate, and it brings in more information. I can then change to a different viz. You can see all the choices here, including some plugins that were brought in that are external at the bottom in color. But maybe I just want to use the radar bar, change this visualization to a radar bar here. And then notice on the left, again, if I wanted to change the color, maybe I wanted to do the color based on the total of unbilled time or the total amount billed. I can simply go in here and choose, let's look at the fees billed and change the color. So immediately you can see that we spend an awful lot of time in taxis. I guess we're in New York City, maybe 9 or 10 months ago, because we're probably not using as much. But just an example here. The piece that we could also go into much more information that people love about Oracle Analytics Cloud is natural language generation. So if you recall, we started with NLP, started by just doing search analytics, right? There are companies that sole purpose is only doing that. To us, it's a feature of the platform. If I want to change this from a bar chart to a language narrative, that's a context-sensitive description of the information that I've got on the screen. So now I've got that language narrative that's discussing the information. If I added filters, it would change. If I simply wanted to rearrange what's on the screen, I'm in control of everything that's designed here. So directly out of the box, you can see how quick and easy it is to build these visualizations, to change them from, you know, a bar chart to a radar bar to a line. If I wanted to have this one now be across the entire top and right click and add some statistical analysis like a reference line, I have that capability right here at my fingertips. It doesn't take more than a few seconds to be able to go in and get this level of detail. So ad hoc example using both natural language capabilities that we call those augmented features directly here. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you then is that the page in our book that we used on the slide, because that was our first bit. So if I simply X this out, you can see that I've got the ability to search for different things. If I wanted, I could go via the thumbnail, or I could actually go into the project catalog and look at the shared folders that are made available to me and go in and look at that legal services demonstration that we talked about and look at this first autonomous data warehouse data set that was brought in by those 3 separate extracts from EPM. And now we've got this nice full screen report of the overview of this information. So some nice tiles across the top for the hours worked, some information about fees and earners and how we're trending month by month, looking at the different levels of information. And that's it. So Barry, anything I should add before we jump in and talk about the next option?
No, I think you covered it. The main thing here is that all of this has been done in line. And like I said before, you know, you're not dropping into disparate Excel files that get lost. Here it's all centralized and shareable and always connected back to the data sources. So we can entirely connect and have that unified data platform from the data sources through to the analytics. And it's always connected, auditable, and trustworthy and secure.
There you go. So that's option 2. Let's talk now about our third option.
So here's where it really gets cool, because now we want to move into the blending part. Now we want to be able to bring that EPM data and the other data sources from the enterprise, whether that's ADW. But what Mitch is going to show you is that you could actually blend with anything. So you could be bringing data in from EPM, but then blending it with marketing or HR or your suppliers, your external data, your customer data, everything like that to bring it to get that complete view. And blending is easy. Like, you know, people spend their entire lives in Excel trying to blend these sheets, trying to figure out how to bring things together. Instead of doing it that way, the new way, the modern way of doing this is directly in these kind of platforms. So let's take a look, Mitch.
All right, back to the live instance. So the finished report, if you will, that Barry was just showing you in the slide is here. So we're looking at the debt by, you know, client name. You can see the different columns. I also have the typical controls that you're after. If you actually wanted to see how much cost, how much do we have that's billed versus unbilled, total unbilled hours, and then sort by that. So now I can see who are my outstanding investments, who owe us money, and who's actually people we might want to go after. So Stark Investments, not so bad, but Barclays seems to have several here in the top 10 of outstanding debts. So we would probably want to go after and look after them. But again, this is just a good example of the information that we've got. If we didn't have, or if we knew the data really well, this is a great way to look at it. But
So
what
this
if
is a
you
great way, if you had joined in your ERP, your systems of record and those kind of things, right here, you're looking at the EPM data, your high level summary stuff. You know, EPM is always got that more summarized view, but from here, we could see that Barclays is an issue. And because we have the ERP directly connected, we could use that point of view and drill through to the actual ERP system and bring in the transactions to complete that root cause analysis.
Cool. So the other thing that we wanted to show you, of course, is data preparation. So you'll notice across the top, we started with just visualizations and canvases and books, and we showed you data flows and bringing together and blending different data. But you also have the augmented capability to go in and enrich some data. Real simple here, I could split the data off as I choose a column. It's up to me. Maybe if I simply clicked on the month column and I wanted to, instead of have this 10 dot space October, I just wanted to have a column that had October for better visualization purposes. I can simply say, let's go ahead and split just the month off in a new column, and it immediately pulls it here to the right. I could then apply the script and go back into my visualization and work with it. So it's literally that simple to add data prep enhancements. So data enrichment is what we call it here. And there's lots of different suggestions. If you had a social security number, it's going to offer the opportunity to say, do you want to obfuscate the entire thing and hide it? Do you want to just hide the first 5 digits? I recognize that this is a 12-digit code. I recognize this is 9-digit, maybe it's a social security number, whatever it is, right? Credit cards, you have those additional levels. And then it also has some real nice capabilities that made, like city, for instance. If you had city, it could say, you know, we can give you latitude, longitude, we can give you time zone, we can give you country. And so even though it's not coming out of your source data, you can enrich the data and start visualizing those brand new pieces. So,
and that's very cool because, you know, the whole concept behind what is analytics, when you're doing these investigations, the more ways you can segment your data, the more chances you're going to be able to find the best way, the best strategy for you to take your business forward. The less you can segment it means you have less options, less visibility in what those choices are. So I said in the beginning that, you know, EPM is a compass to show you the direction, but, you know, your analytics is the map, and you're going to have several different routes. So the more ways you can segment it, the more chances you're going to find the right and best route for you. And with what Mitch is saying is that you can actually bring in and segment this data with population and longitude, latitude. You can bring in all sorts of information without having to go and download data sets and then do the blending exercise. Again, if you're in Excel, you know, who really goes down and gets all the weather information and tries to blend it and do it manually with VLOOKUPs? It's time consuming. Here we're doing it with 2 or 3 clicks, and you're really going to get your data carved up in more ways.
Exactly. Well, let's take a look at, so Barry, what we've shown so far is someone who really knows the ins and outs. The other thing that I think that Analytics Cloud does really, really well is leverages machine learning to help us understand the best things to visualize. So this is all well and good if you understand the data and the hierarchies, but if I'm brand new and someone says, hey, Mitch, start doing an analysis on cost code and build some good visuals, I don't know where to start. So we leverage machine learning out of the box to simply right-click on cost code and say explain. And when I choose explain, it launches a brand new algorithms, 4 different algorithms of machine learning that say, let's understand the basic facts of these cost codes. And if it's a visual that I want to apply, I simply say, let's go ahead and tick that one. I think that's a good one to visualize. Maybe I also want a couple more, maybe 1, 2, 3, and just choose the different visuals as they're presented to me. I can then go to the next one down and look at the key drivers of cost code, and it starts showing me, oh, okay, it's these cost codes by date, cost code by fee earner, MRC, that might be me. So let's throw that one into the report. And then also I could look at the segmentation of this data. What's it look like? What's the confidence in the data as it's been brought in? So deliveries has 100% confidence, cost code, et cetera. And anomalies. So if you wanted to run and check the different other attributes as they're pertaining to cost code, you'd see those attributes there. And then once I've made those selections, you saw me just tick a few visuals, I hit add selected. And when it does that, it opens up a brand new tab. It automatically builds those visualizations for me, and you can see that they're live. So I'll go and add a bit more screen real estate, as I like to say, and I'm in charge now. So if I wanted to, you know, bring the build, unbuild, and total unbuild into maybe a different visual with the fee earner across the bottom, I'm in control of the screen. It's easy for me to simply move things around and make changes. Maybe I don't want this. I want the different style of visualization completely up to me. So really neat capabilities here. Maybe I want to change directly to that language narrative again and be able to show that it can happen directly off of the machine learning algorithm. There you go. So this brand new report is something that the machine learning algorithms are able to simply just immediately create for me. This is one of the mic drop moments, if you start using Analytics Cloud, being able to leverage these algorithms, leverage explain, how to build the visuals in a matter of seconds, as well as show the nice NLG responses, really shines for us.
Right. And this is really where, every finance department is really trying to become more data driven. I mean, I don't even have to try and prove that to you. You know that the market's going that way. If you haven't bought into becoming data driven, then you missed the boat. And this is really the approach that helps you let the machine take a look at the data first. And, it makes assumptions based on correlations in data you wouldn't otherwise have seen, that you would never look for. And that helps you at least get that starting point with everything based in a data-driven approach. So you can start here and then you can expand your investigation from this point onwards with your foot beginning in what the data is telling you.
Exactly. Let's show you one more thing, which is we showed you the data prep and the data enrichment. We've shown you a lot of the natural language and the one-click statistics, the easy machine learning algorithms. What about creating an online briefing book and sharing that information? So this last page, narrate is all about that. So I can set the different pages to be part of the book. You also can see the reports as they were written and created and brought out on the left-hand side. And I could simply add those as I see fit directly into my report, simply on the left-hand side and bringing them down to the bottom if I wanted. I also have across the top some controls to be able to present and say, I want to present live this information. Maybe I want to save it and show some of the other areas. It's actually slowed down here for a second. So let me try and, come on. There it goes. It needed to run the query on that cost code. It's bringing it back for us now. There we go. So my brand new explanation was also now brought into the book. If I wanted to present that, you'll notice I get this nice kind of bubbles across the bottom. So you can see all the adjustments that I made at the last minute are reflected here. So moving around, the automatically created visual, a couple of the other existing panels in the book, including the blended one, including the one directly off of ADW, are all here for me to simply provide a lockdown online briefing book if we wanted to.
So you mean I don't have to cut and paste this into PowerPoint anymore?
Imagine that. Well, Barry, funny you should ask. If I also wanted to say, let's save as, take this and export it somewhere. Maybe I want to dump this out to something like PowerPoint or to a PDF document or to package it up and share it with someone else or just grab the data and share that. So this is where you have access to do those things. I can say, let's do a PDF document and choose the active page, just the visual on that page, or every page and all the stories on those pages. So this is where you would share, this is where you would print, this is where you would create and lock down based on security, et cetera. So that's what Narrate's all about, being able to share those different pieces. Okay, anything else here, Barry?
No, I think that the main point here is that, again, everything when you go into the story mode, you go and sit down in your board meeting or your meeting where you're going to look at the results, everything's interactive. So even in your PowerPoint presentation, you've cut and paste those graphics in. The second you've done that, the stuff is stale. If you created your PowerPoint like a diligent person the day before, but somehow overnight your data has actually been updated in the source systems, you go to your meeting the next day, your PowerPoint's actually out of date. Doing it this way it doesn't matter when you show up to the meeting because the data is going to be fresh as it was right now. And because it's interactive, when somebody asks a question, but those data numbers there don't look quite right because we didn't have something in that logistics area. Well, you can just do a filter and cut it out and carry on with the meeting. You don't need to go off and say, oh, well, we're going to have to meet again next week and figure out the right numbers. You can discuss it right there in place and no cut and pasting into PowerPoint.
All right, so let's talk about what we just went through, because we wanted to show you live examples. We wanted to show you the different options you have for leveraging OAC with your EPM cloud data sources, as well as others, as he mentioned. But Barry, what are the things we kind of walked through?
Well, we started with that augmented data enrichment, which you could see we have the ability to very quickly, with a few clicks and no code, expand the analytics with new data areas, segmenting it in more ways. We also did the visual recommendations. We don't want IT to have to go off and build every combination and variation of report that could possibly come up. And the business is always going to have a different question every day. So we have the ability to have the machine recommend the visualizations based on what we're asking immediately. Those natural language interfaces, all built in, two kinds. You can be able to ask information of the system. Imagine that. I could sit down and just type in a request that's going to ask information directly off my EPM system saying, just give me these attributes, these measures, and this metrics. Bang, you got it. And the natural generation, we don't want to sit down there and every company's got its blue book, beige book, or red book where everybody's sitting there typing away furiously trying to explain the charts. Now it's going to give you that explanation right there off the bat. Predictive analytics, one click using that Python algorithms to use that data to do predictions or clustering or any of those kind of things. And proactive personalized analytics. Here on the mobile phone, for example, it begins to learn your different habits. It learns where you look at certain information. It learns what information you look at becomes important to you and then begins to make recommendations. If you're looking at revenue by region, maybe you want to look at revenue by product. It'll figure that out and start to make those recommendations to you.
Cool. So just to summarize things, we walked in, talked about that first option where you can connect to multiple sources. And we just did a live connection to the EPM cloud. As we mentioned, it's fairly new, it's easy to do. Make sure you get the filtering right. Those are the things that I would simply recommend with doing that. We also talked about data preparation. We blended and did a data flow, but once we had that, if there was additional data that could enrich our data set and make it better, we showed how you would be able to do that directly in line without having to go somewhere else to do so. We walked through a few other additional reports, allowed you to see natural language in a couple different ways, both by asking for visuals as well as using explain to get a good interaction, and then see how quickly you can put together those reports and then productionize them, if you will, and make them something that you can have that briefing book and that you can have in presentation mode and export and share that information. We showed you the algorithms for explaining something. If you don't know what it is, explain's available on that data set, really nice and easy there. And Barry mentioned the Python engine makes it simple and fast, so you don't have to be a data scientist in order to do it. You simply ask and it returns the information, and just as I did, you tick the visuals that you're interested in. And then of course, being able to drop into that narrate function and have a guided analytics view of things, regardless of your data sources. We're showing 3 different ways that someone might leverage EPM data, export it, blend it with other things, and then figure out how you want to share it. Our best recommendation, of course, is to stay within OAC. It gives a real nice interactive experience, but guess what? There's always reasons for someone to go outside to do a PDF or to bring it into PowerPoint. We still live in that world where people want to do that. So those are the pieces. Now, the first thing, as we mentioned, was that live connection. Barry did a real good explanation of the data flow that he created, how you bring those different sources together that were the exports from the EPM system. And now we're having that data be live in the autonomous data warehouse instead of having to have all the licenses for EPM Cloud. We can share it with the universal credits license that Oracle Analytics Cloud allows you to work with. We walked through several of the different examples, showed you those, talked about all the different pieces, and that's really it. So the one thing we didn't do live was mobile, but I think most people are staying home these days. Just know that mobile hasn't gone away. If you're once again traveling in 2021, everything that we did here can still be consumed on a portable device. You can use that nice personalized learning experience, the zero authoring, and just being able to speak to your mobile phone with Oracle Analytics Cloud, and it comes with it. It's out of the box. So Barry, why don't you wrap us up?
So really the point we wanted to make here today is all the kind of capabilities that Mitch and I were talking about. All of these things are now available on your EPM data. With the direct connector, you could be able to create these visualizations as fast as you can and run those kind of machine learning algorithms, run Python scripts on that EPM data just with a few clicks. And it's not just limited to an ADW source. You can bring it in from the EPM. You can leverage the ADW. You can bring in your ERP data, join that with your EPM data, and then still run all these machine learning algorithms with all relevant data. Very easy without having to resort to a bunch of Excel sheets distributed in some file system that you're emailing around the place. When we used to travel, I used to say, you have your laptop and you have some really secure information sitting in some Excel sheets that you're carrying off on your laptop. That's not the best way to do things. Here, we're going to keep it all secure in the cloud, but still have that full collaboration environment So there's no loss actually by going into this particular way of working. This is the new modern way of doing things.
Awesome. And that is it. So, questions? We don't see anything in the chat. Must have been just compelling and wonderful. So if you have questions, now's a great chance to drop in and put them in the Q&A area. We'll hang out and wait for that as we're here. Barry, do you have any questions?
Well, the only question I have is, what does the R stand for in MRC?
I don't know. Nothing. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone who is here today. Thanks for your attendance and your hopefully your interest. Happy to follow up. Please get in touch with anyone in Oracle if this has really got your gears going, that you want to look more into it. And just realize that it's not a difficult thing to do. Being able to leverage Analytics Cloud alongside your EPM environment is kind of the new way of doing things. So we look forward to having those questions, and we look forward to talking to any of you who want to learn more. So thanks very much.